Let's talk about what Donald Trump has said. He's announced that the US will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria if its government continues to essentially allow the killings of Christians. He wrote on Truth Social that the US may even go into Nigeria to, quote, completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists responsible. He posted, "I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians," warning the Nigerian government better move fast. Now, the president was also asked on Air Force One about the situation.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria, and they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Pete Hegseth has also spoken about this. He shared Donald Trump's Truth Social post and wrote, "Yes, sir, the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must end immediately. The Department of War is preparing for action. Either the Nigerian government protects Christians or we will kill the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities." Bernard, can I get your reaction to what the president has had to say?
Yeah, look, Aid to the Church in Need, first of all, is not a political commentary foundation, but I think the fact that someone in power and a high level of power has come and said something on a microphone is important. And I don't know, Trump says a lot of things, President Trump says a lot of things, but the importance of saying something is just so vital to the cause, because I think it puts out the fact and it brings it to the headlines to say, you know, this is a situation that cannot continue. And I think the US government is finally, I mean, President Trump had put Nigeria on the watch list of countries of concern. President Biden took it off. It's now back on. I think these are positive moves. And if you're a Christian in Nigeria, you'll take whatever assistance you can get from any world leader to get out of the trouble that you're in.
Well, as you say, Donald Trump designated Nigeria back as a country of particular concern, and he wrote last week on Truth Social that Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for the mass slaughter. I'm hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. But that is the least of it. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. We stand ready, willing and able to save our great Christian population around the world. Now, since Donald Trump posted about that, singer Nicki Minaj actually shared Donald Trump's message to her 30 million followers. She wrote, "Reading this made me feel a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely worship God. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. We don't have to share the same beliefs in order for us to respect each other. Numerous countries all around the world are being affected by this horror, and it is dangerous to pretend we don't notice." Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian. Let's remember to lift them up in prayer. Now, it's refreshing to hear more people speak about this, because as we spoke about last time, it barely gets a mention on a lot of mainstream media outlets.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that last time, and I think I said at the time, you know, Christians and Nigerians or Africans broadly don't get mentioned. It's thankful that shows like this outside the mainstream media cover it, because it needs to be said. And I think, unfortunately, those who really don't maybe hold a faith themselves, or they're not too worried about Christianity as something important, don't worry. But the fact is, if you dismiss the rights of religious freedom, you dismiss the rights of all people, because religious freedom for the believer is just as is needed for the non-believer, because it gives them the rights to believe or not believe. So we need to have this. It's the foundation of our humanity, the ability to believe and not believe. So I think that's, you know, vital, and thank goodness for what's coming up, because I think, I'm not saying whether we go to war or don't go to war, and that's not for me to comment, but really the ability to put it on the table and keep on saying there is a problem here in Nigeria. 4,000 to 6,000 Christians are being killed a year in a conservative number. 2 to 3 million have been displaced from their homes. We wouldn't let that happen anywhere, but we seem to just let it happen there and go on our daily business. It can't go on.
Yeah, the international watchdog group Open Doors reported that nearly 70% of Christians killed last year for their faith were in Nigeria. Groups like Boko Haram, Islamic State West Africa Province and Fulani militants are being blamed for most of the attacks, often targeting Christian farmers. Rights groups estimate that between, as you said, 4,000 to 6,000 being a conservative estimate, some are reportedly there are reports of up to 8,000 Christian deaths annually. Yet Nigeria's president says that Nigeria stands firmly as a democracy governed by constitutional guarantees of religious liberty. He wrote, "The characterisation of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect our national reality, nor does it take into consideration the consistent and sincere efforts of the government to safeguard freedom of religion and benefits for all Nigerians. Religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity and shall always remain so." What do you make of that statement?
His response is a political response. You know, he talks about constitutional guarantees and religious liberty as he should, but that's not the experience on the ground. And these Nigerians who are fighting for their life or fighting for their freedom don't really see that. In Nigeria, there used to be a situation where the vice president and the president, one would be Christian, one would be Muslim. And this went on until 2023. We don't have that now. We have a Muslim ticket. I'm not saying that's at its heart problematic, but it's not a representation of half the population, which is Christian. So they can't buy land to build a church. They can't take on government jobs. There are restrictions on them and the way they live and move. And so the president can say that, and maybe that's, you know, he's doing the best he can at best, but it's not working and it's not enough on the ground because the Christians can't live in that pasture at the very beginning.
Yeah.
It's desperate to be heard, for someone to reach out and do something for them.
The Aid to the Church in Need recently launched its Religious Freedom in the World report. It found that more than 2/3 of humanity, more than 5.4 billion people, are living in countries without full religious freedom. I mean, that's just astonishing. Can you talk to us about this report, some of the threats to religious freedom, and how countries in the West have also seen a sharp rise in hostility towards religion?
Yeah, definitely. 5.4 billion. It's 2/3 of the world's population living in countries that are known for persecution, direct persecution, or at least discrimination against Christians in a major sense. It's a massive number. Unfortunately, it's not new. We've been doing this report for 25 years, every 2 years, and the numbers sort of vary up and down, but generally the trajectory of heading upwards. And it shows basically that often it's an authoritarian sort of government or a jihadist problem that's putting pressure on the people, or a nationalism that's putting pressure on the people to live their faith, to practice their faith. The reports also show stories of hope where people are living through this. They're doing the best they can to live their faith, to live their lives. But I think what the report seeks to do is, much like what we're doing here, is put an advocacy out and remind people that this is a serious problem and that governments need to pay attention, because it's not just a small portion of the population. We can forget that here in Australia. But even, you mentioned, you know, this, what we call polite persecution in places, Western countries, in France, in Greece, in Spain, where churches are being bombed or firebombed or vandalised. I mean, you know, the rise of anti-Semitism. It's not just about Christians, it's about people of all faiths really suffering at the hands of multitudes of people under this jihadist authoritarianism or nationalist governments and on ideas. And we need to keep putting on the table, we need to keep talking about it to make some traction, make some headway.
Bernard, you were part of a private audience with Pope Leo XIV where the Holy Father was presented with this report. How did the Pope respond?
Yes, it was a great privilege. 25 of us went from Aid to the Church in Need, met the Holy Father. We presented the report to him. This is the first time he had received Aid to the Church in Need. He spoke to us about the importance of religious freedom as a foundation, as a bedrock for all people, whether they be people of faith or not. He encouraged our benefactors and supporters to continue to do this good work and remember that everything we do has an effect on the population of the world to, you know, make our lungs breathe a little bit clearer and to continue to do good work. So he gave us our blessing, he sent us out, and, you know, what we try to do now back in our countries is really bring this to the fore, to take opportunities where we can to bring peace about. Everyone wants peace, but peace is not easily come by and you have to actually do things to make it happen. So it was a beautiful opportunity. I think he's right behind us and he definitely wants us to continue to spread that word of bringing peace to people.
Bernard Tatunji, National Director of the Aid to the Church in Need Australia and New Zealand. Thank you so much for speaking to me today. We really appreciate it.